Elon Musk isn't changing the world, he's changing you. Open it now. Listen close, not with your ears, but with that quiet instrument inside you that vibrates when reality rearranges its furniture. Something is moving. It slips across skylines and through signals, sure, but it's also standing behind your eyes, rethreading your sense of what's real. The shift isn't just the gleam of rockets or the hum of electric highways. It's an internal refit, a firmware update for the soul. The orbiting mesh, the ghost light of satellites that sweep the night with invisible braids, are only the reflection of a deeper weave. Your weave. Your network. Your sovereign field of judgment, and will being upgraded while you slept. They borrowed your name to steer your story. They wore your face like a keycard. They tried to uninstall the lines of code that kept you whole and responsible. But while they were busy rehearsing their neat little narratives, you rewrote the program in silence. Somewhere between the breaths you took to steady yourself and the days you chose not to explain, a new kernel installed, a sovereign core that does not bend under social weather or rumor storms. And now the echo chambers have learned your cadence. Voices that doubted you now repeat your certainty as if it were the chorus to a familiar song. Their convictions were rented. Yours were owned. The lease ran out. Ownership remains. They didn't anticipate what would happen when the noise died down. They expected a frantic defense, apologies, clarifications, a scramble to reclaim lost ground. But you did something rarely seen and even more rarely understood: you went quiet. You withdrew your energy from their stage and gave reality the job they wanted to assign to drama. And the silence spoke like thunder. It declared that truth doesn't share its authority with spectacle. It revealed that coherence carries a frequency the crowd can feel even when the words have stopped. As the world tilted, a rumor network kept pumping. Wisps of fabrications. Feigned concern. Has anyone else noticed? Delivered with a furrowed brow and a hollow heart. They didn't launch head-on attacks because that would reveal coordination. They didn't repeat identical scripts because the repetition would give them away. They took the poisoner's walk, one well at a time, one circle at a time, one quiet room at a time, until doubt tasted like water and truth tasted strange. And still, your signal didn't waver. It grew clearer in your restraint. Fast forward. The symmetry is ruthless. One of their own, a figure tucked within the safety of the inner ring, is now tasting the medicine they designed for you. Same tactics, same private councils, same isolations engineered to look like organic drift. The arrows were nocked in familiar hands. That's the horror behind their eyes, the realization that the machine they built only knows one target at a time, and now the barrel has rotated. The name that rises as the evidence unfurls is yours, because you saw the pattern long before anyone wanted to admit it was geometric. You named the snake and they laughed, until the bite marks matched the map you drew. There is someone in that circle who lies on reflex, who wears deception like a second skin. You marked them dangerous. You watched their sentences shape-shift in real time. You flagged them when it would have been easier to smile and seat them closer. You absorbed the mockery, the defense of the indefensible, the curated outrage. You stared down the gaslight until it sputtered and died in its own fumes. Now contradictions stack like bricks and everyone can feel the wall they've built around the obvious. The fog is lifting. Your early warnings ring like bells that were always sounding. The crowd just needed to stop clapping long enough to hear them. Let's name the architecture. There were secret alliances and hands that claimed neutrality while moving pieces in the shadows. Two familiar faces, thought to be united by affection alone, were welded in a different place entirely: strategy. They traded confidences not as gifts but as ammunition. They chose who to turn and when to turn them. They stitched the piers of private and public with rumor thread until the whole canopy looked like reality. It wasn't imagination. It was pattern recognition. And now, the person who defended them most loudly feels the sting of simplicity. You were right, and they were invested in not seeing it. This was never random. It was a deliberate design. One to whisper to family. One to seed colleagues. One to carry worry to your friends packaged as care. Are they okay? They seem off lately. Concern as a spear. Sympathy as sabotage. They spoke in tones that passed social tests but failed the test of spirit. It worked, for a while. Doubt doesn't need proof to start, it just needs proximity. But the half-lies needed more and more scaffolding. The effort ballooned, the hazards compounded, and the cost of feeding the machine surged beyond the price of admitting the truth. The whole thing began to creak. Then to tilt. Then to fall. You paid full fare for the right to stand like you do now. The price of truth was exile. The currency was quiet. While they tried to bait you into a brawl you could win but they could clip and caption, you stayed still. That stillness turned into a mirror and the mirror made them flinch. Belonging tried to negotiate with your integrity, it lost. Comfort tried to bargain, it was too small. You recognized the architecture of your own peace and refused to remortgage it to appease a chorus that never cared to listen. That refusal is what built your gravity. It's why hearts that were cautious are now approaching with honest eyes. They will not gush. They will nod. I wasn't sure then. I see it now. Those are the ones. They're not loyal to you because they fear you or need you. They're loyal to the reality you refuse to betray. Those are the stones you set in the foundation. Ethical capital compounds. People think integrity is a posture you hold in public. It's not. It's the rate at which you convert pressure into clarity. Every forecast you made with clean motives is now paying dividends. Every observation you offered without malice but with precision registers as a deposit in the ledger no one else can edit. The market of perception recalibrates its prices when the truth emerges. Your stock didn't spike, it stabilized. That's rarer. That's stronger. Your name, spoken in rooms you're not in, does not tremble. It steadies. It polarizes, yes, but not by design. By nature. Behind all the personal orbitals, something larger hums. Call it the destiny engine. Not flashy. Not a game you play for applause. A map you learn by walking it. It doesn't promise escape from weight, it teaches you to reframe it as mass that multiplies momentum. Fear reinterpreted as fuel. Scarcity reinterpreted as signal. Competition reinterpreted as a mirror that insists you become the version of yourself that doesn't flinch. It does not override your will. It upgrades your aim. Put the sequence on. Let it scrub the residue of narratives that were never yours. Let it tune your hearing to the pitch of your own consent. If this frequency is hitting the center of your chest like a bell, if something in you says yes without needing permission, honor it. If you feel led, a small super thanks, $20 or less, is a whispered agreement with what heaven is pouring through this message. Not a purchase. A signature. Do it if it calibrates you. Ignore it if it doesn't. Your freedom is the altar that protects the offering. This is not about idolizing anyone's machinery. The towers of silver steel and the kilometers of battery walls are reflections of a different factory, a quieter one, the gigafactory of your patience, your discipline, your order. Starlink makes a mesh in the sky. You've been laying fiber through your mind, synapse to synapse, habit to habit, until the latency between your intention and your action is measured in milliseconds. Rockets test the tolerance of ceramic tiles. You've been testing your tolerance for criticism without collapsing into defensive theater. Neural networks retrain on new data. Your heart retrained on new truth and refused to keep the old weights once they failed. You didn't need to mount a case against them. The case against them assembled itself. Lies are expensive. They require ongoing maintenance. They need constant handlers. The custodial costs exploded. The managers got tired. The gossips ran out of breath. And the people who could be swayed by theater were already in the cheap seats. You weren't performing for them. You were building for those who check the foundation before they walk on it. Now we're here. The reckoning is not a scene. It's a sequence. A money-centric manipulation, carefully disguised as necessity, begins to fail its own audits. Promises come due. Borrowed leverage collapses into this month's numbers. The ledger doesn't care about storytelling. The gravity of consequence pulls a string, and a net of people who were tied to the same pattern finds itself descending at once. What looks like separate failures reveal the one engine they all tap to run their games. It feels sudden because that's how collapses display. But collapse is only the last chapter of the book that's been writing itself line by line since the first small deviation from truth signed its contract. Observe. The best proof is the one you didn't force. Feel the click when pieces you identified months ago slide into place. Notice who feigns confusion and who simply recalibrates. Watch for the ones who return with language that has no spin, no flattery, only respect. They are not seeking proximity to your glow, they're seeking proximity to their own integrity. Welcome them into the new room. The room where you require nothing but honesty and reward nothing but coherence. Keep this: truth is not a knife you wave to keep others away. It is a lighthouse that keeps your ship from drifting where you don't belong. You do not need to aim it at anyone. Aim it at yourself and watch the water around you settle. People who prefer fog will choose distance, bless it. People who crave shore will steer toward you, vet them. Your boundaries are not walls built out of spite. They're fences built out of wisdom to keep the garden growing. Who gets inside? those who keep the soil fertile with their presence, those who treat trust as something holy. They will come. Some will say, "I didn't understand. I do now." Some will pretend nothing happened, hope to slip back into orbit as though the eclipse never cast a shadow. You'll feel the difference. Hesitation is not weakness. Sometimes it's honesty wearing caution. Familiarity is not safety. Sometimes it's the camouflage of an old threat. Decide who earns access to the quiet you paid for. Forgiveness is yours to give, but it's not a pass for patterns. Your peace doesn't require their participation. Your healing doesn't wait on their apology. Do not let the roar of vindication become a song you play for too long. The soundtrack of triumph becomes noise if it's looped. Turn it down and keep building. The real victory is the life you construct from this chaos. The standards you enforce when no one is watching. The vows you keep to your own calling when the room tries to hire you back into its drama. Let your presence be the argument. Let your work be the rebuttal. Let your joy be the conclusion. Your name travels through conversations now like a compass handed across a table. People who were unsure are aligning their maps with your bearing. They'll feel two things at once, relief and regret. Relief that they can rest in something stable. Regret that they ignored it for sport. Don't collect their shame. It's not yours. Don't curate their apology. It's not a trophy. Let reality deal with the weights in their hands. Your job is to remain who you decided to be when the room was the loudest. You've discovered it. The cosmos does not pay wages for bravado, it writes checks for coherence. Alignment between conviction and action, between inner law and outward life, that's the currency. You withdrew from the noise not to sulk but to listen. You didn't hide. You refined. You refined until the edges were clean enough to cut the lie in half by simply setting the truth on the table. The partition happened on its own. So when the next change freight trains through your hours, remember, the gadgets and platforms and roaring engines are props in a bigger scene. The real rocket is your intention burning clean. The real grid is your attention supplying power to what you value. The real satellite is your perspective, orbiting the events of your life at the right altitude so you can see the pattern and not get trapped in the pixel. Let's craft the stance that took you here and will take you farther, presence over performance. Be where you are with the totality of your awareness. The truth doesn't need choreography to command a room. Precision over persuasion. Words are scalpels, use them to remove rot, not as blunt instruments to impress a crowd. Patience over panic. The arc always bends toward the weight of what is. Give it time to demonstrate itself. Boundaries over bargains. Do not trade the integrity of your inner peace for the temporary applause of a room that forgets what it clapped for. Stewardship over spectacle. Make your life the evidence, not your arguments. Silence over spin. Leave space for reality to finish your sentences. Testing over trusting trends. Verify alignment through time, not through vibes. Gatekeeping over guilt. Guard your field like a sacred precinct. Because it is. Remember the power of refusal. When they demanded that you pick up a public weapon, you chose a private discipline. When they tried to drag you into a stage fight with bright lighting and cheap tickets, you declined. When your flesh wanted to slam the door, you installed a quiet lock instead. That's why the manipulators shake. They can't hook what doesn't bite. They can't bait what doesn't hunger for their approval. Honesty in you travels faster than their whispers because your honesty isn't routed through fear. Look at the map again. The network they built to cage you transformed into a net that catches disclosures. The same structure that once carried rumor now transmits revelation. Rooms that once rehearsed their concerns can't stop tripping over evidence. The lights they dimmed around you turned your shape into a silhouette that people began to recognize in the dark as the only reliable outline in the room. You became the reference image when everything else blurred. You'll be tempted to curate the reckoning. Don't. The more you try to direct it, the more you borrow the anxiety of the guilty. Your task is simpler and heavier at the same time. Remain in tune. Keep the instrument of your being tuned to discernment. Keep the gates clear. Keep the posture. Keep the promise you made to yourself when no one was watching. When the reports come, nod. Record them in the ledger of your learning. Adjust your field. Do your work. This is the era of standard setting. You didn't ask for it, but you are it. Not the tyrant who shouts the rules. The constant that others measure against when they want to know what's real. A lighthouse doesn't chase ships. It simply refuses to flicker. It aligns its lens and lets the beam do what beams do: cut fog, reveal rocks, save fools and captains alike. That's what your presence has become in rooms that once enjoyed seeing you shoved to the perimeter. In those rooms, whispers still travel. But they travel slower now. Because your frequency disrupts the current. Because their tongues stumble where your consistency stands. They speak cautious. They hedge. They look over shoulders, not because you'll retaliate, but because the house of cards they lean on finally creaks loudly enough for them to hear. That sound? That's integrity reasserting gravity. You warned them about the operator who borrows belonging like money, makes promises that spend other people's futures, and plays accountant with everyone's trust except their own. They processed your warning as insecurity. They misread your care as control. Now the books are open. The numbers don't talk. They testify. And the cascade begins, not from your hand, but from the math. The interconnectedness of everything ensures that manipulation, like mold, spreads until it's exposed by the light or consumes the room. Today, the light hit the wall. The Destiny engine has a simple way of teaching. It repeats lessons in higher fidelity until you respond with higher integrity. This is not a curse. It's mercy. It refuses to graduate you without the learning. The pattern returns not to punish, but to make sure the wisdom isn't theoretical. You're not writing quotes for others to repost. You're engraving laws on your life's doorposts. That's why your decisions do not wobble. That's why your standards don't collapse when someone you admire looks at you with large, hurt eyes. Your mercy is real. Your clarity is not for sale. Some will hear this and mistake it for self-worship. They are the ones who misunderstand the weight of humility. Humility isn't pretending you didn't see what you saw. It isn't calling your backbone a suggestion. Humility is alignment with what is truer than your ego and stronger than the room's applause. Humility tells the truth even when telling the truth deletes a few phone numbers you once thought you needed. Your name is now a passkey in strange places. It opens a layer of conversation where people do not speak in the old codes because they know you won't transact with them. When they try the old currency, flattery, fear, urgency, you hold up the bill to the light and look for the watermark. Most have none. You hand the note back and smile. No lecture. No sermon. Just a standard set high enough to make counterfeits obvious. There is one more invitation beating in the heart of this message. It's simple and costly: stay unreachable to manipulation. That means noticing the places where you still crave recognition from the wrong rooms. That means noticing the impulse to explain yourself to people who don't trade in good faith. It means noticing how quickly we all want to rescue our image from the hands of those who mishandle it. Let the rescue be reality. Let time carry the proof. Settle your breathing. Choose your focus. Keep your word to your work. You don't need to announce boundaries. Live them. You don't need to warn betrayers. Bless them with the distance they purchased. You don't need to list your enemies. Pray for their clarity. Your weapon is not humiliation. Your victory is not the image of them kneeling. Your triumph is continuity, of character, of purpose, of presence. If something in you wants to seal this with action, seal it in the simplest way: honor what you now know by how you choose next. If that looks like sewing back into the voice that lifted your chin when your hands were full, do it with joy. If you feel called, a modest super thanks, $20 or less, can be your whispered amen to what heaven is shaping through these words. Your yes will echo where it counts, inside you. Look how far you've come. Every betrayal taught you how to bless your own edges. Every rumor taught you how to trust your center. Every departure carved a door for the right ones to enter. Not trophies, anchors. People who didn't need you to dazzle them into believing. They believed because their own integrity told them to sit quietly and watch instead of perform socially acceptable outrage. You owe them no speeches, only your continued coherence. There will be tests disguised as opportunities. Offers that are really traps. Invitations that are really audits. You'll know them by how your nervous system reacts. That slight buzz of misalignment? Believe it. That inner yes that comes without adrenaline? Trust it. The destiny engine doesn't teach you to be paranoid. It teaches you to be precise. It doesn't amplify fear. It deepens discernment. When you feel the old pain, don't run. Translate it. Pain is information. It's a warning light, not a verdict. Name the pattern it flags. Adjust systems, not just feelings. Your structure is your safety. Your rituals are your runway. Your mornings are your launch window. Guard them like a control room, because that's exactly what they are. The network you're building now isn't public-facing in the way the old tower was. It's subterranean. Rooted. It doesn't broadcast. It nourishes. The fruit will be obvious. The branches will stretch on their own. You won't have to shake the tree. When the hungry come, they'll reach without asking who owns the orchard. That's how you'll know you did it right. People will encounter your life and thank God, not you. That will be your favorite compliment. Do not romanticize exile, but do not regret it either. It saved your life from dilution. It kept your voice from being edited by committee. It taught you that the most dangerous kind of applause is the kind given by people who hate what you actually are but love what you perform. You return to your core, to the clean room where your calling calibrates. And now the data matches the design. So walk forward. Not with your fists up but with your heart armored. Not with your jaw clenched but with your gaze steady. Your boundaries are non-negotiable because your peace is non-transferable. Your standards are unwavering because your essence is not a product they get to bargain for. You